Today we are making one of my all-time favorite cookies. They're a twist on my best ever chocolate chip cookies, except they have even more chocolate. You can never have enough chocolate if you ask me. These cookies are filled with 3 kinds of chocolate. We have bittersweet, semi-sweet, and cocoa powder. They bake up soft in the middle with lots of gooey chocolate puddles, and they're perfectly chewy on the outside. They're thick, but not too thick. They're perfect. So our brown butter is all done. What a beauty! Amazing. Just like magic, you guys. These cookies are easy to make with just a few simple ingredients, and they're always a crowd pleaser. Perfect to total on to book club, game night, or the neighborhood potluck. You can even dress them up with peppermint extract or dip them in melted chocolate for a special holiday treat. To make this recipe, you can use a stand mixer, or I'm gonna use an electric hand mixer today. This one happens to be cordless. It's really great because you can take it all around the kitchen with you and you're not tied down to the cord. Okay, so let's talk about what ingredients we need for these cookies. For this recipe, you'll need all-purpose flour, granulated sugar, Dutch processed cocoa powder, light brown sugar. We're gonna have bittersweet chocolate chips, 2 eggs, some vanilla, and we also have our unsalted butter, salt, and baking powder and baking soda. Let's talk about cocoa powder for just a second. This recipe calls for Dutch processed cocoa powder, which gives a richer, deeper flavor than unsweetened cocoa powder. If you only have unsweetened cocoa powder on hand, you can swap that. I also really like to use Hershey's Special Dark, which is easy to find at the grocery store. To make this recipe, we'll start by melting our bittersweet chocolate chips. You can use a double boiler or the microwave. Just want to make sure that you stir it often, melting until they're smooth and shiny. Then we'll set that aside to cool for about 10 minutes. So we're just melting our chocolate over a double boiler on medium-low heat. So the water underneath is simmering and that chocolate is getting nice and shiny. Okay, our chocolate is almost ready. You want to make sure all of those chocolate chips are fully melted. You want to keep stirring to make sure that it doesn't clump together and that all that chocolate is nice and smooth and shiny. You want to make sure that you keep stirring the chocolate while you're melting it so that it doesn't seize up on you. So don't walk too far away from the stove. Okay, that looks perfect. I'm just gonna take that off the stove. Okay, so our chocolate is nice and melted, super smooth and shiny. We're gonna set that aside for about 10 minutes and let it cool down a bit. So we're gonna take our 3/4 of a cup of unsalted butter and add it to a large bowl. It's nice and soft, room temperature. And then we're gonna take our, 3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar, add that right in. And we have 2/3 of a cup of granulated sugar. And then we're just gonna mix that together until it's light and fluffy. So this is called creaming together the butter and sugar. And we do this so that it gets to be a nice, light and fluffy texture, which leads to a really nice, chewy, soft cookie. So it takes about 3 minutes to bring this to the consistency that we're looking for. You're gonna start off on low speed, and then you can gradually increase the speed of your mixer, making sure you're getting all of those little bits of sugar mixed into that soft butter. You always wanna make sure that you're using room temperature butter for your cookies, in most cases, because this allows you to really incorporate those ingredients together nicely. If your butter is too cold, you're not going to have that nice consistency that you're looking for, and all of your ingredients are gonna kind of clump together as you mix. Okay, so it's coming together really nicely. You can see it's sort of starting to get nice and creamy, but we wanna go a little bit further. So we're gonna bump that speed up, give it a good mix. Okay, so this is what our mixture looks like. Nice and creamy, looks awesome. Okay, so we're gonna take our eggs and add them to the bowl. I like to add the eggs one at a time. Oops. That way you can really incorporate each one in before adding the next. And again, just like the butter, you're gonna wanna make sure that you're using room temperature eggs. If you forget to set your eggs out when you bring the butter out to get to room temperature, you can always set them in a bowl of warm water for about 10 minutes, and that will bring them to room temperature faster. Okay, that one's mixed in nicely. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add my second egg right into the bowl. And I'm also gonna go ahead and add my vanilla right now. So I think the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of vanilla. You can always add a little extra more, it never hurts. Okay, so mixing that together. Our mixture's gonna get even lighter and fluffier now with those eggs in there. You wanna make sure that you give it a really good mix here because once we add our dry ingredients, we're gonna wanna make sure we're not over mixing. That looks awesome. So good. See how light and fluffy? So good. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and add in that melted chocolate that we made. So it's cooled down just a little bit. It's still on the warm side, but it's not piping hot. We're just gonna pour that right into the bowl. And this is bittersweet chocolate chips that we melted. So these are gonna add some sweetness to the cookie dough, but not too much sweetness. We'll be adding more chocolate in a little bit. Okay, so we've got that chocolate added. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so good. I'm gonna give that a nice little mix, stirring all of that chocolate in. Again, wanna make sure that you're not over mixing here, so I'm gonna keep my mixer on low speed. And you can see all that chocolate is really mixing in there nicely. This is going to be so creamy and delicious. Okay, that looks great. We're gonna stop right there. And then I'm actually gonna go ahead and take those mixers off. I really wanna lick this, but I'm not going to. And we're gonna switch to a rubber spatula to add in our dry ingredients. So this is to make sure that we don't over mix our dough. So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna put in our, I think it's 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And we have 1/4 cup of that Dutch process unsweetened cocoa powder, that nice rich cookie. We have our baking powder and baking soda, and we have that salt. So we're gonna go ahead and stir that all together in our bowl using our spatula. And we're gonna give it a stir just until a few streaks of flour are remaining so that we don't overmix the dough. This leads to a really nice soft cookie in the center with a chewy outside. So you wanna make sure that you're not overmixing that dough because if you stir it too much, you're gonna overwork the glutens in the flour, which is gonna give you a denser, tougher cookie. Okay, so we've got just a few little bits of flour in there still. I'm gonna go ahead and add our extra chocolate chips. So this is what makes these cookies even more chocolatey. We've got more bittersweet chocolate chips, which I love. If you don't love bittersweet chocolate chips, you can use dark. You can use more semi-sweet chocolate chips. You could even put milk chocolate chips in your dough if you like. And then I'm gonna also add semi-sweet chocolate chips. So it's 1/2 cup of each. Okay, and then we're just gonna give that one quick stir, working that into our dough. Again, making sure we're not over mixing. Okay, how good does that look? So yum. Okay, this dough is a very soft dough, so we're gonna have to let it chill for about 20 minutes, and we'll get our cookie sheet ready to go and preheat the oven while we wait. Okay, our cookie dough is chilled. It's all ready to go, so we're gonna go ahead and get that scooped out onto our parchment-lined baking sheet. So I love to use these large baking sheets because you can make big cookies, and I always line my baking sheets with a piece of parchment paper. This really helps the cookies to bake evenly, and it makes for really easy cleanup after you're done. So you just throw away the parchment paper or reuse it, and then your cookie sheet is already clean. Okay, so I like to weigh my cookie dough balls. This is not a necessary step, but if you like your cookies to be really uniform and all the same size, I highly recommend weighing your dough. So we're just gonna take our dough and give it a good scoop here. This is a large cookie scoop, and I'm just gonna pop it onto my scale so that all of the cookies weigh the same size. So we're gonna scoop out about 6 cookies and plop them onto our parchment lined sheet. So I'm gonna make these cookies about 2 ounces each, 2.1, 2.2. And I'm gonna put them about 2 or 3 inches apart on the parchment lined baking sheet. That way they have plenty of room to spread. These are gonna spread a little bit in the oven and make a really nice gooey cookie with all of that chocolate inside. We're gonna put more chocolate on top in a second. Okay, so I've got my 6 cookies. We're gonna set this aside, and this is gonna be the messy part, also the fun part. So we're gonna take these cookies and just roll them really gently between the palms of your hands. It doesn't need to be perfect, just a little bit more uniform. You're kind of just getting rid of those little jagged edges on the cookie dough balls. Again, this is super messy. Get the kids in the kitchen, they'll love this part. You're just gonna roll these up. Okay, so these are all about equidistant apart on my sheet so that it can bake up nicely and evenly. And then we're gonna top with a few more chocolate chips just to get even more chocolate in that cookie. It's gonna be so good. Okay, I'm gonna put 3 or 4 chocolate chips right on top. You can use the semi-sweet chocolate chips here, or you can add more of the bittersweet. You can use milk chocolate. If you want to do peanut butter cookies, you could add peanut butter chocolate chips. So many possibilities. Okay, these are ready to go. We're gonna bake these in a 350-degree oven for about 9 to 10 minutes. Okay, our cookies are done and they look fabulous. These are so chocolatey. Again, 3 kinds of chocolate in these cookies. Now, our cookies are a tiny bit uneven. This one's like almost perfectly round, but what we're gonna do is take a large cookie cutter and just give the outside of the cookies a little nudge back in towards the center. This is called a cookie scoot. You can also use the inside edge of a fork. You can use a spatula. And this just gives those cookies a nice, uniform, round appearance. Totally unnecessary. I just like a really perfect cookie, but you can just eat these right off the tray just like they are if you prefer. Okay, those look perfect. So good. Now, I, again, love chocolate, as you know, so we can never have too much, as I mentioned. We are gonna add even more chocolate chips to the top because these look a little bit bare. And this is just gonna give you even more puddles of chocolate on top of those luscious cookies. Oh my gosh. So you'll know when the cookies are done. These baked for about 9.5 minutes. When the edges are just set, you can see the edges are set, kind of crinkly and wrinkly, and the tops are a little bit puffy. You never want to over bake your cookies. If anything, you want to under bake the cookies just slightly. And that's because when you take the cookie sheet out of the oven, the residual heat from the cookie sheet is going to continue to bake the cookies. So again, always under bake just a little bit for the ooeyest, gooeyest texture when you bite into it. Okay, we've got plenty of chocolate chips on there. Those are going to melt in. And then we're also going to top our cookies with a little bit of flaky sea salt. This is Maldon salt. I love adding salt to chocolate cookies because it really enhances the flavor of the chocolate and it cuts the sweetness just a little bit so you have the perfect flavor in every bite. Okay, those look perfect. These are so hot. I don't even know if I can pick one up, but gosh, I really want to bite into one. Look at how chewy and gooey these cookies are. The texture is so perfect and they are so chocolatey. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're gonna split one open just so you can see the texture. Again, so gooey. They're fudgy like a brownie. I love them so much. If you love chocolate as much as I do, you're gonna love these cookies. For the recipe, you can find it in the show notes below. And if you liked this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.